So what I've decided to do is I'm going to start off with one episode and one movie a week, and then when I run out of movies, I'll do essays. Finally, I've been putting out the essays because it's going to be difficult because I'm not going to show any of the footage. So it's very time consuming because what I do is I listen to it, stop it, summarize what I've just heard, give a rebuttal or a reaction to what I just heard, and then repeat the process. And editing that takes forever. So that's why I keep putting it off. In case you're wondering, is it'll take one 20-minute essay would probably take 2 hours to do and then edit, and I'm not counting export time and all this stuff. So I don't like the long time consuming things for to end up with like a 20-minute video. So I've been putting them off, but like it's something I do want to do. It's just I tend to put off the long time consuming thing. That's why my movies always end up at the end of the month. It's like, well, I could do that, or I could do 4 episodes of One Piece. So that's why I end up always doing. So I don't know. I mean, I can't believe we're here, but you know what? Time marches on. Time marches on. This is how you wake up one day and you're 50 years old, because whatever you do, man, that clock keeps ticking. Don't matter what the hell you do. Time marches on. The journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. And I recently, very recently, saw somebody talk about how they don't want to get into One Piece because there's just so much of it. They don't want to get into X Files because there's just so much of it. They didn't want to watch. As a matter of fact, I think it was Carmine, Red Team Review, was talking about they don't want to do Deep Space Nine because there were 7 seasons of it. It's just it feels like so much when you start. There's like 140 episodes, hour long, right? And I've never seen Deep Space Nine either. And I just don't think I would like it. But there is also the fact it's 140 episodes. It's a large time investment for somebody who might, if you're just going to watch it for fun, you may have what some people may have. Like I probably have like 5 to 10 hours of leisure time a week, maybe. I'm a workaholic, so that's not normal. Most people probably have 30 hours of leisure time a week. More than 3 hours a day. Maybe some days maybe not. But then you get a lot of leisure time on weekends if you work during the week. So I don't know, man. People just don't want to like sign up for 140, 150 hours. Then if you're doing what we do, it's even more because you're talking before and after. You're thinking about it. You're working with it. You're doing additional stuff, Q&As, and It is why after having done Naruto and having done One Piece, I don't want to get into something like Dragon Ball. There's just so much. I kind of want to do a bunch of short stuff for a while. And then when I get tired of the short stuff, I'm ready for a longer term investment. I can go back into something a lot longer. So that's the plan, I guess. I'm not happy about not happy that I've run out. Like it's just insane to me. I had so much, and now I have nothing. There is a comment. This was on a Normies. I think it was Severance. Somebody talked about this on Severance, and oh, yeah, they're talking about Pat. The Normies on Pat is kind of he's a character. We'll put it that way. I actually think he's hilarious. A lot of people hate him. A lot of people think he's dumb. I don't think he's dumb. I think he sees things in a different way, right? And so they're talking about in Severance how Pat seems to be watching a completely different show in Severance than everybody else. And this is just a random comment on that. I thought it was interesting. And he still loves it. Feels like when you're a fan of something because you know it's supposed to be good, but you don't know exactly why you like it. Vibes. For example, One Piece reactions I've seen seem to instantly love it. They get up to episode 1000 or so and don't remember the last arc they watched. They just know the feeling. At that point, the characters can do anything and they'll just like it. Just make a bare bones plot. We're there for the vibes. That is such an interesting thing to say. To one extent, I'm kind of like that because some of this shit I just can't. I have trouble grasping. Like in Yusuke, there's like, and Naruto before that, there's like all these this complicated lore. Okay, You have to channel the 4 aspects of your soul to pull the magic through your body out of your hands. And then you have to do that. You have to do your hands like this and focus, and you need 2 hands for it. And it can't be windy outside when you do it. And then as long as the leaves are blowing to the left, you can do this power. And there's like so many different powers and so many different things to keep in mind for there's use cases for the powers, and there's like people can do certain things, and there's family genetics that allow them enhanced powers and certain kind of eyeball powers, and and when you're watching it for the first time, it's overwhelming. You're watching it for the first time in English, and when I was watching the original Naruto, they didn't have text on the screen, so I absorb information better when I read it than when I hear it. Right? I'm partially deaf. I don't know if that's the reason or if it's just the kind of brain I have. But I just absorb information better when I read it. So I couldn't read it because they wanted it in English. So I couldn't read the information. I had to hear it, but I'm also talking because it's a reaction. You have to talk. You can't just be sitting there doing this, or it's not fair use. You have to talk over the shit for it to be fair use, right? You have to change the material. You have to modify the material with your words. You can't just be staring at it. It'd be different if I was watching it and then doing an essay. But no, so I'm watching it live for the first and only time, because there's no time to go back and revisit these episodes. Like, it's a lot easier to absorb it if you've watched it 5 or 10 times. Like some people have, they can absorb every single nuance. They're watching it, nobody's talking, they're paying attention, they're locked the hell in, and maybe their streaming service has subtitles, didn't want them, and so they watch it, so they completely absorbed it. I'm watching it once, talking at the same time with no text on the screen, so I can't read it. I'm gonna miss some shit. And so for shows like that where it's like there's a super complicated magic system, I'm going to be more focused on the character interactions. Because even if I was locked in and I was watching 5 times, I don't really care about the specifics of the magic. I care about the character interactions. Like, this person is in love with that person, but they can't be with them because they're in different families and there's a political situation there. And that person's too insecure to really come into their own and use their power to the fullest extent. And this person over here came from a privileged family, they're lazy and they're trying to overcome their laziness. Like, these are the things that interest me. I don't care that you have to put your left pinky up under the full moon for this magic to work. Who gives a shit? I don't care about the magic. It's all made up. You know what's not made up? Human feelings, human interactions, human relationships. That is real. Even if the fictional characters are not real. The human emotions are real. And human interactions are real. We've seen it a million times. That is really grounded in reality, even though they're fictional characters. The made-up magic system could be anything. The writer pulled it out of their ass. It's like and the magic is just a function of the plot. It's a plot device. We need this character to beat that character. But the other characters already been established as super powerful, so they have a power, they have an eye power that nobody else has, that they can use to their advantage to win the fight. That's why the eye power exists. If we didn't have that situation, they wouldn't have created the eye power 20 episodes ago, knowing they were going to need it in this episode, right? Yeah, so the magic's just a plot device. And because I'm a writer, I know how sausage is made. I don't really get like all lubed up about the magic system. It's cool. I enjoy it. I like hearing about it. I think I would like it better if it was a novel. Read it. Like the magic systems in novels, I really enjoy. They kind of do a deep dive on the Force in some of those extended universe Star Wars novels, which I really enjoy. Like, I like that shit. But for this kind of thing, I don't get super wrapped up in, the magic system. So I'll kind of like not get all the nuance and all the aspect. Wait a minute, how did this person beat that person? Well, they typically explain it. They dumb it down a little bit and explain it, thank God. So I am kind of like just swept away. The characters can do anything. I'm not going to push back on it. I'm there for the vibes. But that's also a little derogatory to say it that way. Like, the characters, when the characters don't make sense, I push back. And you've seen me do this many times. Sanji doesn't make sense. Usopp doesn't make sense that he has no more confidence than he did before he was on the island for 2 years. That makes no sense. That's not how human beings work. That's not how character growth works. That's not how... It'd be different if he had been 50 and was already set in his ways, but he was young and still learning and evolving and growing. but he doesn't have any emotional development in 2 years. He has no self-confidence. He should have walked out there a self-assured badass, capable of facing anything, because he was on an island of death that was trying to kill him literally for 2 years, and he survived. That would be such a boost to your morale and your self-esteem. Nothing could ever touch it again. I only had one boost to my self-esteem, and it changed my life. You know, like I fought this dude that was way more powerful than me. I stood up to him. I didn't really fight him. I was so overmatched. The fight was over in like 3 seconds. I don't know for sure. People said he's a Navy SEAL, ex-Navy SEAL, right? But I don't know for sure. It was a homeless situation, right? We were on the street. But I stood up to him. And he put me on my ass. And I stood up to him again, and he put me on my ass again, said he was going to kill me, and I stood up to him again, and I was like, well, then just do it, you know? And he's like, whatever, man, you're crazy, you know? And there were other people involved who kind of separated us, and that was that. We just kind of left each other alone after that. But I proved that in that, probably the entire encounter was 120 seconds, if that. In that 120 seconds, before that, I didn't know for sure if I was a coward or not, because I'd never really faced a situation to prove my bravery to myself. Because I spent my entire life being beat up by people much bigger and stronger than me. Grown-ass men were knocking me across the room. And a lot of times, I would back down from them. And so I would say, well, am I backing down from because I'm so overmatched, or am I backing down from because I'm a coward? I didn't know. I honestly didn't know if I was a coward or not, because there's all these big people, my brother, so manipulative and so big and everything, just dominating me. So I didn't know. I literally didn't know if I was a coward. That one encounter, by myself, separated from all friends and family, standing up for myself, being like, well, just kill me then. I don't care. You're not gonna punk me out. You're not taking my shit. So just kill me. You know, and he didn't do it, fortunately. He easily could have. But the fact I was so overmatched and I stood up to him anyway, proved to me, for the rest of my life, I've never had a doubt about my bravery again. Who gives a shit about whether you're brave or not? We live in a civilized world. Typically, we're not in the Wild West. We're not facing down bears and, cannibals and, enemies and who want to kill us. So we're not in a war. Does it really matter if you're a physical coward or not? Like, if you're actually a coward, who cares, right? But it was very important to me as a kid. But I've never doubted that again, ever. One encounter, 120 seconts. And I never again doubted myself. I had the confidence and the self-assurance to stand up to any situation. It's really served me well throughout the years. There are times you may need to do a strategic retreat. But when you do that, you're doing it as a strategic retreat, not because you're a coward, because you've already proved that to yourself. So, one incident, 120 seconds. But you're going to tell me 2 years of self-confidence boosting survival had no impact on his character. There's no effing way. Like, that doesn't resemble actual human behavior. So these are the things we can push back on, right? Like I said, real life scenarios. Things we can relate to. We've been in this situation, so we can relate it to that situation. So, that's the kind of shit that, I'm not just here for the vibes and accepting whatever. But magic systems and, some of the, power scaling and this person should beat that person in every situation and all that stuff, I don't really get all wrapped up in that. And I don't really care that much. Really, it's like, they say that war is just another form of diplomacy. It's just another weapon in the diplomatic toolbox, right? So you go to war and then you're trying to prove a point. Okay, we're going to take the city. First, it's like, give us the city. No. Okay, we're going to take it. That's just diplomacy. War is just diplomacy. So fighting is just an extension of personal interactions, right? Like, Luffy wants something, and Carrot Top doesn't want to give it to him. So first they try talking. Hey, give me your pastry. And Carrot Top says, no, I'm not giving it to you. Okay, well, can I buy your pastry from you? And Carrot Top says, no, you can't buy it. Well, can I scare you into giving me the pastry? And Carrot Top says, no, you can't scare me. can I intimidate or can I extort it from you? Like, I'm going to hurt this person you like if you don't give me the pastry. Carrot Top says no. So then it's like, okay, well, I'm going to hit you until you give me the pastry. See, violence is just an extension of negotiation. It's just another form of, I want something that you have, whatever it is. Maybe I just want you to get out of the doorway so I can walk through the doorway. It could be anything. I want something. And I want you to give it to me. And if these other forms of communication don't work, then I'll just use my fist. That's all it is, right? You know, and you can spread that across any part of life. There are people who believe that a kid won't learn something unless you hit him. Well, that's flawed thinking, but it still is an extension of what I'm talking about. It's like you're trying to get something from somebody, even if it's for them to learn something, and then you use a method you think is going to work. And a lot of people just resort to violence immediately. Other people, negotiation, bribery, talking it out, whatever, you know, intimidation, maybe extortion, whatever, threats. It's just an extension of interactions and negotiations. So some people in shows like the battle anime, and maybe some anime is like this, where the fighting is the purpose. It's just a spectacle, and we want to see people bash each other in, you know. But the good shows, the good stories, it's just another part of the interaction, negotiation, communication between the characters. Just like I said, it's another tool in the toolbox. So that's where you should put it on the priority list. It's interesting, it's fun. I have a lot of fun with the fights, but I'm way more interested in the character interactions. And so, like, if things happen in the fights that maybe don't make sense, I don't give a shit, because, like, really, it's just the end result of the fight is what matters. And again, I come at this from a scriptwriting point of view. If you're a scriptwriter, you never detail the fight. You never say, okay, he throws a left punch, and it knocks him across the room, which knocks over a lamp, and then he closes the distance, and the other guy trips him, and they fall on the ground, and he jumps on top of him. What you say is, they fight. Carrot Top wins. That's it. Now, if there's damage taken that affects the plot, and there's going to be dialogue about it, and moving forward, like, you know, somebody gets a broken wrist, and that, you know, he's going to have that broken wrist for the rest of the plot, you will say, they fight for 30 seconds, and then, you know, Luffy gets his left wrist broken. And they fight for another 30 seconds, and Carrot Top wins. That's all you say. If there's damage that, you know, like say there's a lamp that's broken and somebody needs to pay for, you'll mention that. You only mention the plot relevant aspects, and you don't give any details of the fight, because that's what they pay the fight choreographer for. The fight choreographer will walk onto the set or see a blueprint of the set and say, okay, this is the fighting space. These are the two characters. This is the length of the fight, and these are the plot relevant things that happen. A lamp gets broken, a wrist gets broken, and this is the person who wins the fight. Now, go. That's your job. Figure it out, right? It's the fight choreographer's job. It's not the scriptwriter's job. If you're sitting there detailing a fight, you're an amateur scriptwriter. So it's plain as day. So you just say they fight. That's it. So that's about the amount of importance, because that's been hammered into me. It's not my job to worry about the fight. I don't really focus on it. What matters is the end result of the fight. What happens at the end, right? That's why sometimes you'll see if a fight lasts multiple episodes, I'll start to get tired of it. Can we just get to the point, you know? But see, I know people are there for the spectacle and they want to see the fight, and you know, not all fights are created equal. Luffy's Gear 5 is hilarious just to look at. It's fun to watch, and there's a lot more entertainment value there than just who wins. So that's, you know, that's different, right? Like, you know, so that's just a whole nother level, right? And a lot of other things can make a difference too, like, you know, the music, and maybe there's onlookers and they're having dialogue, and, you know, the stakes of the fight, like what they're actually fighting over, can change how much you care about it. But am I like, wait a minute, he should have been using his left eye for his power, not his right eye? I don't give a shit. And if I don't remember that detail, I don't give a shit that I don't remember that detail. Where it's very important to other people. Right? So I think that's where that person is coming from. They're talking about, oh, you know, they're just there for the vibes. They're watching a different show than we're watching. That feels a little arrogant and elitist. You know, and it's just interesting. I ran across a One Piece comment, and something had nothing to do with One Piece, which is Severance. But I'd never really seen that somebody have that opinion before, where it's like you're just there for the vibes. The characters can do anything. So I wanted to push back on that. I just think that was interesting. And yeah, I mean, obviously, as you can see, this is just another talky video before I actually get into the reactions. I'm not going to make you sit through a 20-minute intro. I think this is going to become more common. We're going to probably end up with 30 to 40-minute videos once we go week to week, just because, hey, what else am I going to do? See, one of my things, like I've said many times, when I was recording 10 episodes a week, I didn't have time for the intros and character corners and the comedy corners and all this other shit. Because I'm trying to hammer out 10 because that's what I owe. Now I'm down to 5, and now I'm down to even less, right? So, just one episode a week, where I would normally be taking this. I'm doing 4 episodes, so I've basically earmarked 3 hours for this. So, if I've been recording for 3 hours for one piece a week, and now I only have one episode, I can devote an hour to it. That's no problem at all, right? And it probably will. So, strap the hell in. We're going to start having longer intros and comment corners and all that stuff. So keep the comments coming. So anyway, well, guess I'll put a button on this and actually get to the goddamn episode.